My name is Amanda, 32 years old, a successful accountant in Chicago, with my own condo, and a life I built from scratch. I never thought a simple phone call could shatter my holiday season. My mother called yesterday, her voice unnervingly calm as she said, "Amanda, we decided you're not invited to Christmas this year. You make everyone uncomfortable." My heart stopped. 15 years of hosting family Christmases, and suddenly I'm uninvited from my own tradition. Why? Because I refuse to enable my brother's gambling debts. If you've ever felt betrayed by family, you understand this pain. Before I continue my story, let me know where you're watching from, and if your family has ever treated you unfairly. Please subscribe and like this video if you've ever had to stand up for yourself against loved ones. Growing up in my family was always a delicate balancing act. My father, John, 59, worked as a construction manager, a practical man who believed in tough love for me, but endless patience for my siblings. My mother, Susan, 57, was a part-time elementary school teacher who somehow always found time to attend my brother's events, but was too busy for mine. My older sister, Lauren, 36, was the artistic one who never quite found her footing in a steady career, but was praised for following her passion. Then there's my younger brother, Kevin, 28, the baby of the family who could do no wrong. From an early age, I noticed the pattern of favoritism, but convinced myself it was just my imagination. When Lauren got a car for her 16th birthday and I received a used bicycle 2 years later for mine, my parents explained they had more resources when Lauren was that age. When Kevin got a fully funded college experience while I worked 2 jobs to pay my tuition, it was because the economy was different by then. I learned to be self-sufficient out of necessity. After college, I secured a position at a respected accounting firm in Chicago, climbing the corporate ladder through determination and countless late nights. My annual bonuses went toward paying off my student loans years ahead of schedule. By 30, I owned my condo outright and had a healthy retirement account. My family seemed proud, but there was always an undercurrent of resentment in their congratulations. "Not everyone has your opportunities, Amanda," my mother would say when I shared good news about a promotion. "Some people struggle more than you do," my father would add, as if my success was somehow stealing from my siblings' potential. Meanwhile, Lauren bounced between artistic pursuits, never holding a job for more than a few months. Her apartment was subsidized by my parents, who called it investing in her future. Kevin studied business administration for 6 years before graduating with mediocre grades, then moved back home where he still lives, working sporadically and spending most evenings gaming or at bars. Despite the imbalance, I maintained my financial independence while gradually becoming the family's financial safety net. 3 years ago, I became the primary account holder for our family Costco membership when my parents complained about the annual fee. "You shop there anyway, and you can afford it," my mother reasoned. I added them as authorized users, never imagining how this arrangement would later come back to haunt me. 2 years ago, when my father mentioned how much easier online shopping would be with Amazon Prime, I shared my account with the family. "It just makes sense since you already have it," he said. Last year, when they struggled with holiday expenses, I became an authorized user on their American Express card to help manage payments and ensure bills were paid on time. I set up automatic payments from my account for the minimum balance each month, with the understanding they would cover the rest. Christmas has always been my holiday. For the past decade, I've hosted our family gathering at my condo, decorating weeks in advance and preparing homemade meals that accommodated everyone's preferences. I spent thousands on gifts, carefully selecting items from wish lists and adding personal touches. No one ever mentioned reciprocating or contributing to the expenses. It was just expected that successful Amanda would handle it all. My relationship with Lauren has always been complicated. As children, we were close, sharing secrets and dreams. But as we grew older and my career flourished while hers stagnated, a wall of resentment grew between us. Her comments became backhanded compliments. "Must be nice to have so much security," or "some of us value experiences over material success." Still, I invited her to stay with me whenever she needed a break from our parents, and helped her build a professional wardrobe when she landed interviews. Kevin and I were never particularly close. The 8-year age gap meant we were in different life stages, and our parents' obvious favoritism created an uncomfortable dynamic. He grew up expecting the world to accommodate him the way our family did. When he needed money, it appeared. When he made mistakes, they were quickly forgiven and forgotten. As adults, our interactions were limited to family gatherings where he'd often make jokes at my expense, which my parents would laugh off as just Kevin being Kevin. 2 months ago, everything changed. Kevin called me late on a Tuesday night, his voice slurring slightly. He needed $15,000 to handle some financial stuff, which I later discovered meant paying off gambling debts. I asked questions about repayment plans and suggested financial counseling. He grew defensive, accusing me of not caring about family. For the first time, I stood my ground and refused. I love you, Kevin, but lending you money without addressing the underlying issue isn't helping you, I explained. Whatever, Miss Perfect, he snapped before hanging up. I didn't hear from him directly again, but I noticed a shift in my parents' behavior. Their calls became less frequent, conversations stilted. At our regular Sunday dinner 3 weeks ago, there was a tension in the air that no one addressed. Kevin was conspicuously absent, and my parents exchanged meaningful glances whenever I spoke. Looking back, I should have seen what was coming. The signs were all there in the distant tone of my mother's voice, my father's avoidance of eye contact, and Lauren's sudden interest in holiday planning that had always been my domain. But I never imagined they would exclude me entirely from a tradition I had maintained for a decade. Not until that fateful call that would unravel everything I thought I knew about my place in my family. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon while I was preparing financial statements for a client. My mother's name flashed on my phone screen, and I answered with a smile in my voice, excited to finalize Christmas plans. We were just 3 weeks away, and I had already purchased most of the ingredients for our traditional dinner. Hi, Mom, I was just thinking about you. I found those cranberries you love for the Christmas sauce. The silence that followed lasted just a beat too long. Then my mother cleared her throat. About Christmas, Amanda. Your father and I have been talking, and we think it might be best if you didn't join us this year. I laughed, certain she was joking. Very funny, Mom. Where would you even have it if not at my place? You know, the dining room at the house barely fits 4 people. We're having it at the house, she said, her voice unnervingly calm. Lauren is helping with the cooking, and we've rearranged the furniture to make space. My hand froze over the spreadsheet I had been working on. I don't understand. Why wouldn't I be there? I always host Christmas. The thing is, Amanda, she continued, as if explaining something to a difficult child. You make everyone uncomfortable, especially since that situation with Kevin. Uncomfortable. I repeated the word, feeling foreign on my tongue. What are you talking about? What situation with Kevin? He told us how cruelly you spoke to him when he needed help, how you lectured him and made him feel worthless. He can barely stand being in the same room as you now. My mind raced back to our conversation. I had been firm but compassionate, concerned about his gambling and offering real help instead of a quick cash bailout. Now it seemed he had twisted my words entirely. That's not what happened, I protested, my voice rising. I offered to help him find financial counseling. I suggested a repayment plan. I just didn't want to enable his gambling. See, that's exactly what I mean, my mother sighed. You're always judging everyone from your high horse. You think because you're successful, you can look down on the rest of us. Kevin is going through a difficult time, and instead of supporting him like family should, you lectured him like one of your clients. The accusation stung. Mom, that's not fair. I've supported this family in countless ways. I've hosted Christmas for 10 years. That's another thing, she interrupted. You're always reminding us of what you've done, making us feel indebted to you. It creates such a negative atmosphere. Lauren said last year she could barely enjoy dessert because you kept mentioning how early you had to wake up to bake the pies. I was stunned into silence. I had mentioned waking up early once in response to Lauren complimenting the pies. It wasn't a complaint, but a light comment about the Christmas morning process I actually enjoyed. Your father and I think it would be more relaxed for everyone if we just had a quiet Christmas at home this year. Just us, Lauren, Kevin, and a few others. Others? I managed to ask, my throat tight. Kevin's new girlfriend Melissa and her parents. They're lovely people, very down to earth, not the type to make others feel small about their life choices. Each word felt like a slap. Not only was I being excluded from my own family tradition, but they were inviting practical strangers in my place. "Mom, this isn't right," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "If Kevin had a problem with me, he should have talked to me directly. We could have cleared this up." "He tried, Amanda," she said with exaggerated patience. "But you know how intimidating you can be with your fancy condo and your important job. Some people just aren't as confrontational as you are." I sat in stunned silence, unable to recognize this version of myself she was describing. Intimidating, confrontational, I had spent my entire life trying to earn my family's approval, walking on eggshells to avoid upsetting the delicate balance. "I don't understand," I finally said, my voice small. "I've always tried to make Christmas special for everyone." "And we appreciate that," she said in a tone that suggested the opposite. "But this year we need a change. Oh, and don't worry about the gifts you've already bought. You can return them or keep them for next year if things are different by then." If things are different, the implication that this exclusion might become permanent sent a chill through me. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall while still on the phone. "I see," was all I could manage. "We'll figure out the financial side of things," she added almost as an afterthought. "Since you won't be participating, we'll calculate your share of the expenses and let you know what you owe." "My share," I repeated, disbelieving. "You're uninviting me and still expecting me to pay." "Well, it's only fair. You've always been so insistent about fairness, Amanda. We'll send you the total for your portion. Anyway, I should go. Kevin and Melissa are coming over to help us plan the menu." The call ended before I could respond. I sat at my desk, spreadsheets forgotten, as the full weight of what had just happened settled over me. For the first time in my adult life, I would be alone on Christmas. No family dinner to host, no presents to wrap, no nieces or nephews to spoil. Just me and my condo that suddenly felt too large and too empty. I called my best friend Jenna that evening, my voice breaking as I recounted the conversation. "I don't understand," I said for what felt like the 100th time. "How can they do this? How can they believe Kevin's version of events without even asking for mine?" "Because it's convenient," Jenna said bluntly. "Your brother needed a scapegoat for his financial problems, and you're an easy target because you've always been the responsible one. They expect more from you and less from him. It's not fair, but it's how family dynamics work sometimes." But to exclude me from Christmas, to invite his girlfriend's family instead, and then to expect me to pay for a celebration I'm not even allowed to attend. Jenna was silent for a moment. "Amanda, I hate to say this, but it sounds like they've been taking advantage of your generosity for years. Maybe this is actually a blessing in disguise, a chance to reevaluate your relationship with them." I didn't want to believe it. Families are supposed to support each other, to be there through good times and bad. But as I looked around my condo at the Christmas decorations I had already put up, the bitter truth began to sink in. The family I had been trying so hard to please didn't value my presence, only my contributions. That night, I barely slept. I scrolled through photos from previous Christmases, searching for signs of the discomfort my mother claimed I caused. All I saw were smiling faces, abundant food, and beautifully wrapped gifts. If anyone looked uncomfortable, it was me, constantly checking that everyone had what they needed, refilling drinks, and ensuring the day went perfectly. Had I missed something all these years? Or was this really about Kevin's wounded pride and my family's unwillingness to hold him accountable? By morning, the shock had begun to give way to a dull ache of betrayal. I had spent my entire adult life trying to earn a place at a table that was never truly set for me. And now, as I faced my first Christmas alone, I wondered if I had been valuing the wrong things all along. The morning, exactly 1 week after my mother's devastating call, began like any other. I dragged myself out of bed after another restless night, made coffee, and checked my emails. Among the work correspondences and holiday sale announcements was a message from my father that made my stomach drop. The subject line read simply, "Christmas expenses." I stared at it for a full minute before finding the courage to click. The message was brief and businesslike, as if addressing a contractor rather than his daughter. "Amanda, as discussed with your mother below is your share of the holiday grocery expenses. Please transfer $900 to my account as soon as possible. We've already begun shopping for the special menu items. Dad." No greeting. No inquiry about how I was doing after being told I wasn't welcome at the family Christmas. Just a demand for nearly $2,000 for a meal I wouldn't even be eating. I blinked, certain I had misread the amount. $1,900. For groceries. Last year, I had spent approximately $1,200 to feed our entire family of 5, plus my uncle and his wife for 3 days of holiday meals, including expensive ingredients like prime rib and specialty cheeses. And that covered everything from appetizers to desserts, breakfast items, and even wine. I checked the email again, thinking perhaps he meant to write $190, but the amount was spelled out clearly, $1,900. The absurdity of it struck me so forcefully that I laughed out loud in my empty kitchen, a sharp, humorless sound that surprised even me. When I had hosted Christmas in previous years, no one ever offered to contribute financially. It was simply expected that I would cover the expenses as part of my role as host. Now that they had excluded me from the celebration, they were not only expecting me to contribute, but asking for an amount that far exceeded reasonable food costs for a family gathering. I immediately called my father, but the call went straight to voicemail. I left a message asking him to explain the breakdown of costs, keeping my tone neutral, despite the anger bubbling inside me. Next, I tried my mother with the same result. Finally, I texted Lauren, "Did Dad ask you for $1,900 for Christmas groceries too?" Her response came an hour later. "Why would he? I'm helping with the cooking instead." So it was just me. The uninvited daughter was being asked to foot a significant portion of the bill for a celebration that now included not just my immediate family, but also Kevin's girlfriend and her parents. People I had never met would be enjoying a holiday meal funded in part by me while I sat alone in my condo. I tried to make sense of it. Perhaps they were planning something extraordinarily lavish with caviar and champagne, or maybe they were including other expenses beyond food, like decorations or gifts. But even then, $1,900 seemed excessive. And why should I be responsible for any of it when I had been explicitly told my presence would make others uncomfortable? The more I thought about it, the more my initial shock transformed into indignation. I had always been generous with my family, never keeping track of exactly how much I spent on them because I valued their happiness above the financial cost. But this request crossed a line from accepting my generosity to expecting it even while rejecting me personally. I called my friend Jenna again, forwarding her the email before our conversation. "This is outrageous," she said immediately. "They can't possibly expect you to pay nearly $2,000 for a dinner you're not even invited to." "Apparently they can," I replied, pacing my living room. "I'm trying to understand if there's some explanation that makes sense. Maybe they're including other expenses, or planning for a lot more people than I know about." "Amanda." Jenna's voice was firm. "Stop making excuses for them. This isn't a misunderstanding. They're taking advantage of you because you've allowed it for years. Think about it. You funded Christmas, maintained the Costco membership they all use, shared your Amazon Prime, and helped manage their credit card payments. They see you as an ATM, not a family member." Her words hurt because they contained a truth I had been avoiding. For years, I had told myself that my financial contributions were expressions of love, ways to support my family, and ensure we could all enjoy certain comforts. But if they could so easily exclude me from a family gathering while still expecting me to pay, what did that say about how they viewed my role in the family? That afternoon, a friend from college who lived near my parents called me. "Amanda, I thought you should know. I just saw your family at the mall shopping like crazy. Your brother was there with a woman I assume is his girlfriend, and they were looking at expensive electronics. Your mom mentioned something about preparing for her parents' visit and needing to impress them properly this year." The pieces suddenly clicked into place. This wasn't just about Christmas dinner. They were planning an elaborate multi-day holiday experience to impress Kevin's girlfriend and her family. And they expected me to subsidize it. I sat down at my kitchen counter, my father's email still open on my laptop, and made a decision. I would respond, but not with the blank check they were expecting. I opened my payment app and sent exactly $1.90 to my father's account, with a note that simply read, "Didn't eat, don't pay." It was petty perhaps, but it felt like the first time in years I had stood up for myself with my family. Then I began to consider all the ways my family had become financially entangled with me, all the accounts and services I provided that they had come to take for granted. The Costco membership was in my name, with my parents and siblings as additional cardholders. I paid the annual fee of $120 plus an additional $60 for each extra card. They used it regularly for groceries, gas, and occasional big-ticket items, enjoying the discounts without contributing to the membership cost. The Amazon Prime account they all used was linked to my credit card. My father ordered tools and gadgets. My mother purchased books and household items. Lauren bought art supplies and clothing. Kevin ordered video games and electronics, all delivered with the free shipping my annual Prime membership provided. And then there was the American Express card. I had agreed to be an authorized user on my parents' account to help them manage their credit, setting up automatic payments from my account for the minimum balance each month to ensure they never incurred late fees. They were supposed to pay off the remaining balance, but I often ended up covering more when they complained about tight finances. As I cataloged these financial connections, a plan began to form. They had excluded me from the family while still expecting me to provide financial support. Perhaps it was time they understood exactly what that support entailed. With a newfound resolve, I made 3 phone calls that would change everything. First, to Costco membership services, where I canceled the additional cards on my account. "I'm streamlining my finances," I explained pleasantly to the representative. "I'll keep my primary card, but I need to remove all additional cardholders." Second, to Amazon, where I changed my password and removed all shared access to my Prime account. I also checked recent orders and found several pending purchases: a gaming console. Kevin had ordered decorative throw pillows from my mother and expensive scented candles from Lauren. I didn't cancel them. I wasn't that vindictive, but I noted the pattern of spending that I had been unwittingly facilitating. Finally, to American Express, where I explained that I was concerned about unusual activity on the shared account. "I've noticed some large purchases that seem out of character," I told the customer service agent. "I'd like to flag the account for review and temporarily freeze new charges until we can verify everything is legitimate." I knew that this would cause disruption, especially with the holidays approaching. But I also knew that it was time for my family to understand that relationships, including financial ones, should be based on mutual respect and appreciation. If they didn't value my presence in their lives, they couldn't continue to benefit from my financial support. After completing these calls, I felt a strange mixture of guilt and liberation. I hadn't burned bridges entirely. The Costco membership could be reinstated. The Amazon password could be shared again. The American Express review would likely be resolved quickly. But I had sent a clear message I would no longer be taken for granted. That evening, I treated myself to dinner at my favorite restaurant, ordering a glass of wine I normally would have considered too expensive. As I sipped it slowly, watching the snow fall outside the window, I realized this would be the first Christmas in my adult life where I wouldn't be exhausting myself trying to create the perfect holiday for a family that didn't appreciate the effort. The thought was simultaneously heartbreaking and oddly freeing. 2 days after I sent my symbolic $1.90 payment and adjusted our shared financial arrangements, my phone rang shortly after 9 in the evening. My mother's name flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath before answering, unsure what to expect, but determined to remain composed. "Hello," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "How could you—" My mother's voice came through the speaker, shrill and broken. She was crying, something I had rarely witnessed. "How could you embarrass us like this?" "What are you talking about, Mom?" I asked, though I knew exactly what had prompted her call. "We were at Costco," she sobbed, "buying supplies for Christmas." Kevin brought Melissa and her parents to show them how we're preparing for the holidays. We filled 2 carts with food, decorations, everything. And then, at the checkout, our cards were declined. "Declined, Amanda." In front of Melissa's parents. I closed my eyes, picturing the scene. It would have been embarrassing, certainly, but no more embarrassing than being told you're not welcome at a family gathering because you make everyone uncomfortable. "That's unfortunate," I said quietly. "Unfortunate. Is that all you have to say?" The cashier announced to everyone in line that our memberships had been canceled. Kevin had to make excuses while we abandoned our carts. Melissa's father offered to pay, but your father was too proud to accept. We had to leave everything there. I remained silent, letting her continue. And that's not all, she went on, her voice rising. The packages we ordered for Christmas decorations are all delayed. Amazon says there's a problem with the account. And your father's American Express is frozen for suspicious activity, just when we needed to book the nice restaurant for Christmas Eve dinner with Melissa's family. So they were planning an elaborate multi-day celebration, complete with restaurant dinners. No wonder they wanted $1,900 from me. I don't understand why you're calling me about this, I said, keeping my voice even. You made it clear I'm not part of the family Christmas this year. Don't play innocent, Amanda. You know exactly what you did. You're punishing us because you're angry about not being invited. It's childish and vindictive. I took a deep breath. I'm not punishing anyone, Mom. I'm simply reevaluating my financial relationships now that I understand where I stand with the family. I've been subsidizing everyone's lifestyles for years. If I'm not welcome at family gatherings, it doesn't make sense for me to continue covering family expenses. This isn't about money, she exclaimed. This is about you trying to control everyone because things didn't go your way for once. The irony of her statement wasn't lost on me. For years, I had been the one accommodating everyone else's preferences and needs, adjusting my plans to ensure family harmony. The one time I set a boundary, I was accused of being controlling. I sent Dad exactly what I owe for the Christmas dinner, I said. $1.90. What are you talking about? Dad asked for $1,900 for my share of the Christmas groceries. Since I'm not eating any of the food, I calculated my actual share as 0.1%, hence $1.90. There was a moment of stunned silence before she found her voice again. That's your brother's future in-laws we're trying to impress. This dinner could lead to a serious commitment. Don't you care about Kevin's happiness? Of course I care about Kevin, I replied. I care enough to not enable his gambling by giving him $15,000 without a repayment plan. I care enough to suggest financial counseling instead of a quick bailout. And apparently that caring made him so uncomfortable that I've been uninvited from Christmas. That's not fair, Amanda. You know how sensitive Kevin is. He felt judged by you. And I felt betrayed by all of you. I countered, my composure finally slipping. I've hosted Christmas for a decade. I've paid for gifts, food, and decorations without complaint. I've maintained accounts and memberships that benefit everyone. And when Kevin told you his version of events, none of you even asked for mine before deciding to exclude me. My mother was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her tone had shifted from angry to manipulative. We can discuss all of this later. Right now, we need you to fix the accounts. Your father is furious, Kevin is embarrassed, and Lauren can't get her art supplies for the handmade gifts she was planning. Just restore everything and we'll sort this out after the holidays. No, I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. I won't be fixing anything until we address the real issues here. You can't exclude me from the family and still expect me to finance your holidays. You're being ridiculous, she snapped, the conciliatory tone vanishing. This is why you weren't invited. You always have to make everything about you. Before I could respond, I heard my father's voice in the background asking for the phone. After some muffled conversation, his voice came through clearly. Amanda, this is your father. Whatever point you're trying to make, you need to stop this nonsense immediately. Restore the Costco cards, fix the Amazon account, and call American Express to unfreeze the card. You're acting like a child. It was the first time my father had spoken to me with such anger. Usually, he remained in the background of family conflicts, allowing my mother to handle emotional matters. His direct involvement indicated just how significantly I had disrupted their plans. I'm not acting like a child, Dad. I'm setting boundaries as an adult. You can't demand almost $2,000 from me for a celebration I've been explicitly excluded from and then expect me to maintain all the financial support I've provided over the years. This isn't about Christmas, he exclaimed. This is about family responsibilities. Your brother is finally getting serious with a nice girl from a good family. We need to make a good impression. Why can't you understand that? I understand perfectly, I replied. Kevin's relationship is more important to you than your relationship with me. That's your choice to make, but choices have consequences. I'm no longer willing to be the family ATM while being treated like an outsider. My phone buzzed with an incoming text. It was from Kevin. Way to ruin everything again. Fix the accounts or I'll come to Chicago and show you what happens when you mess with my life. I read the message aloud to my parents. Is this the kind of behavior you're defending? Kevin is now threatening me. He's just upset, my mother quickly said. You know he doesn't mean it. Actually, I don't know that. What I do know is that I've been excluded, insulted, and now threatened, all while being expected to contribute a ridiculous amount of money to a celebration I'm not welcome to attend. My father's voice softened slightly, shifting to the pragmatic tone he used when negotiating. Look, Amanda, maybe we all overreacted. Your mother was just trying to keep the peace, and Kevin has been under a lot of pressure lately. How about this? Fix the accounts now so we can proceed with the holiday plans, and we'll revisit the invitation after things calm down. It was a transparent attempt to get what they wanted without addressing the real issues, and we both knew it. That's not going to work this time, Dad. I'm not interested in being an afterthought invited only after you've secured my financial contribution. My phone buzzed again with another incoming call. It was Lauren. I told my parents I needed to take it and would call them back. Without waiting for their response, I switched to Lauren's call. Amanda? What the hell is going on? Lauren's voice was more confused than angry. Mom and Dad are freaking out and Kevin is making threats. Something about canceled credit cards. I explained the situation briefly, from the uninvitation to the $1,900 demand to my response. $1,900 for Christmas dinner? Lauren sounded genuinely shocked. That's insane. Even I know that's way too much, and I'm terrible with money. Her candid acknowledgement surprised me. So you didn't know about Dad's request? No, I had no idea. I knew they were planning something elaborate to impress Melissa's family, but I didn't realize they expected you to fund it, especially after excluding you. That's not right. It was the first time anyone in my family had validated my feelings about the situation, and it nearly brought me to tears. Thank you for saying that. Look, she continued, I know you and I haven't always been close, and maybe I've been jealous of your success sometimes, but this situation is wrong on every level. I'll talk to Mom and Dad, try to make them see reason. I appreciate that, Lauren, but I don't think they're going to change their minds. They've made their priorities clear. Then they'll have to deal with the consequences, she said firmly, including a much more modest Christmas than they were planning. After ending the call with Lauren, I turned off my phone, needing some time to process everything. I made myself a cup of tea and sat by my living room window, watching the snow fall gently over the city. For the first time since this whole ordeal began, I felt a small sense of peace. I had stood up for myself, and at least one family member had acknowledged the validity of my position. My phone, when I turned it back on an hour later, was filled with notifications. Multiple missed calls from my parents, texts from Kevin alternating between threats and attempts at guilt-tripping, a longer message from Lauren saying she had spoken to our parents and things had gotten intense, and most surprisingly, a group text from my father to the entire family calling for an emergency family meeting via video call that evening. I hesitated before agreeing to join the call. Part of me wanted to continue enforcing the boundary I had established, making them feel the full impact of losing my financial support. But another part recognized that this might be an opportunity for real communication, something our family had avoided for years. At 8 o'clock that evening, I logged into the video call. My parents sat stiffly side by side on their living room couch. Lauren was in her apartment looking uncomfortable but determined. Kevin joined last, his expression a mixture of anger and embarrassment. I've called this meeting to address the current situation. My father began formally, as if conducting a business meeting. Amanda has taken certain actions that have affected the family's holiday plans, and we need to resolve this immediately. Before we go further, I interjected, I want to be clear about something. I didn't create this situation. I responded to being uninvited from a family tradition I've maintained for years, and then being asked to pay nearly $2,000 for a celebration I'm not welcome to attend. We've already discussed this, my mother said dismissively. The issue now is restoring the accounts so we can proceed with our plans. No, Lauren surprised everyone by speaking up. The issue is that we've been taking advantage of Amanda's generosity for years, and now we're angry that she's setting boundaries. Kevin scoffed. She's just being petty because she can't control everything for once. That's unfair, Kevin, I said. When have I ever tried to control you? When you asked for $15,000 to pay gambling debts, I offered alternatives instead of cash. That's not control, that's caring. You made me feel like a failure, he shot back. Looking down on me from your perfect life with your perfect job. My life isn't perfect, and neither is my job, I replied calmly. I've worked incredibly hard for everything I have, often while watching you receive support and praise for minimal effort. But I never begrudged you that until you turned everyone against me for not enabling your gambling. My mother tried to interrupt, but my father held up his hand. For the first time, he seemed to be actually listening. Amanda, he said slowly, are you saying Kevin asked you for $15,000 to pay gambling debts, not for a business investment like he told us? The question hung in the air. Kevin's face drained of color. Yes, I answered simply. He called me late at night, slightly intoxicated, and asked for $15,000 to cover gambling debts. I refused to give him cash, but offered to help him find financial counseling and develop a repayment plan for what he already owed. He hung up on me. My parents turned to Kevin, who was now visibly uncomfortable. Is this true? My father demanded. Kevin's defensive posture crumbled. I might have simplified things when I explained it to you guys, he mumbled. But she still made me feel like garbage, talking to me like I was one of her clients or something. I spoke to you like an adult who made a mistake and needed real help, not a quick fix, I countered. That's what family should do. The conversation shifted, then becoming more honest than any we had shared in years. Lauren admitted feeling envious of my financial success, but also grateful for my help over the years. My mother reluctantly acknowledged that they had come to expect my financial contributions without properly appreciating them. My father, in his pragmatic way, recognized that their Christmas plans had become unnecessarily extravagant in an attempt to impress Melissa's family. But the accounts, my mother eventually circled back. We still need those restored. Christmas is just days away. I took a deep breath. I'm willing to restore access, but things need to change. I won't be taken for granted anymore, and I need an apology for being excluded and then asked to pay for the privilege. There was a long silence before my father spoke. You're right, Amanda. We owe you an apology. I especially owe you one for the email I sent. $1,900 was excessive, and asking you to pay while excluding you was wrong. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a start. We spent the next hour negotiating new terms for our family relationships, financial and otherwise. I agreed to restore the Costco membership and Amazon access, though I suggested everyone contribute to the annual fees in the future. The American Express situation was more complicated and would take a few days to resolve. As for Christmas, my mother extended a reluctant invitation for me to join them after all, but I declined. I think we all need some space this year, I explained. I've made plans with friends now anyway. The call ended with tentative plans to meet in the new year to continue the conversation. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was the beginning of a more honest relationship with my family, one based on mutual respect rather than financial dependence. As I closed my laptop, I felt both drained and relieved. Standing up for myself had been difficult and painful, but also necessary. For the first time in years, I felt like my family was seeing me as a person with feelings and boundaries, not just as a resource to be tapped. While my family scrambled to adjust their Christmas plans without access to the financial resources I had always provided, I focused on creating a different kind of holiday for myself. Jenna had immediately invited me to join her family when I told her I wouldn't be going home, but I declined. I needed time to process everything that had happened and to learn how to enjoy the season on my own terms. I kept the decorations I had already put up in my condo, but added some new ones that were purely for my own enjoyment, rather than designed to impress guests. I bought myself a small tree and decorated it with ornaments that held personal meaning rather than matching the color scheme I usually adhered to for family gatherings. I baked cookies, not by the dozen, but just enough for me to enjoy with my evening tea. On Christmas Eve, I volunteered at a local shelter serving meals. The gratitude of the people there provided a perspective I had been missing in my family dynamic. No one expected anything from me beyond what I freely offered, and the simple act of serving food without any underlying tension was refreshing. That night, I received a text from Lauren. Dinner was a disaster. Mom tried to recreate your prime rib recipe but overcooked it. Kevin got drunk and said something offensive to Melissa's dad. Dad is stress cleaning the kitchen and muttering about credit card limits. Wish you were here to save us from ourselves. I smiled slightly at the message, feeling a mixture of vindication and sadness. Sorry to hear that, I replied. Maybe next year will be better. It would be if you were organizing it, she texted back. I never realized how much work you put into making everything seem effortless. It was the most direct acknowledgement of my contributions I had ever received from any family member, and it meant more than I expected. Christmas Day dawned clear and cold. I slept in for the first time in years, not having to rise before dawn to prepare a feast for others. I made myself pancakes shaped like snowmen, something I would have done for nieces and nephews, but never for myself. Then I opened the few presents friends had sent me, taking time to appreciate each one rather than rushing through gift opening to get back to hosting duties. In the afternoon, I joined a group of colleagues who were also staying in the city for the holidays for a potluck dinner. I brought a simple dish, rather than trying to impress everyone with my culinary skills. The conversation was light and enjoyable, free from the undercurrents of resentment and expectation that had characterized my family gatherings. As I walked home that evening, snow falling gently around me, I realized that this had been the most peaceful Christmas I had experienced in a decade. There was some sadness, certainly, at being separated from my family, but there was also a newfound sense of freedom and self-respect that I had never allowed myself before. My phone rang as I was preparing for bed. It was my father, his voice subdued. Amanda, I owe you a proper apology. Not just for the money situation, but for everything. We've taken you for granted for years, and it took losing your support to make us see it. I sat on the edge of my bed, surprised by his candor. Thank you for saying that, Dad. Your mother and I have been talking, he continued. We realize we've enabled Kevin's irresponsibility and taken advantage of your success. It's not fair, and it's not how parents should treat their children. No, it's not, I agreed softly. We'd like to start over in the new year, set new expectations and boundaries, treat each other with more respect. Would you be willing to give us that chance? I considered his request carefully. I would, but things need to change. Real change, not just temporary adjustments until everyone falls back into old patterns. I understand, he said. And for what it's worth, Christmas wasn't the same without you. Not because of the financial aspects, but because you bring a warmth and organization to our gatherings that none of us can replicate. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet of my bedroom, reflecting on everything that had happened. The past few weeks had been painful, but illuminating. I had discovered my own strength, the importance of boundaries, and the difference between giving out of love and giving out of obligation. As the year drew to a close, I received emails from both my mother and Kevin. My mother's was lengthy and defensive in parts, but contained genuine expressions of regret and promises to respect my boundaries in the future. Kevin's was shorter but surprisingly mature, acknowledging his gambling problem and agreeing to seek professional help. He didn't directly apologize for turning the family against me, but he did thank me for trying to help in the right way, even though I didn't want to hear it at the time. Lauren and I began talking more regularly, our conversations evolving beyond surface pleasantries to more meaningful exchanges. She confessed her long-standing jealousy of my financial stability, but also expressed admiration for how I had built my life without the family support she and Kevin had received. In early January, my father called with an update. Kevin had enrolled in Gamblers Anonymous and was looking for a full-time job rather than the sporadic gig work he had relied on before. My mother had joined a support group for parents of adult children and was learning about healthy boundaries. They had both agreed to contribute to the family's shared expenses, rather than expecting me to cover everything. These were small steps, but significant ones. For the first time, my family was addressing the imbalances that had defined our relationships for years. Whether these changes would last remained to be seen, but the fact that they were trying gave me cautious hope. I had my Costco membership converted to an individual one, removing my family members as authorized users. I didn't share my new Amazon password, and I removed myself entirely from the Family American Express account, helping my parents set up automatic payments from their own bank account instead. These weren't acts of retaliation, but necessary boundaries to ensure our relationships would be based on emotional connections rather than financial dependencies. When I finally agreed to visit my parents' home for a weekend in February, the dynamic was noticeably different. My mother didn't immediately ask for tech support or shopping advice. My father discussed family finances openly rather than dropping hints about tight budgets. Kevin was working at a local restaurant and spoke about his recovery with a humility I had never seen in him before. Lauren brought up the possibility of us taking a sister's trip together, something we had never done as adults. It wasn't perfect. Old habits emerged occasionally, like when my mother subtly suggested I might want to help out with Lauren's car repairs. But I was now equipped to address these moments directly, rather than automatically reaching for my wallet to keep the peace. The experience had changed me fundamentally. I learned that true generosity comes from a place of free choice, not obligation or fear. I discovered that my worth wasn't tied to what I could provide materially, but existed independently of my financial contributions. And most importantly, I realized that loving myself enough to set boundaries was the first step toward building authentic relationships with others, including my family. 6 months have passed since that fateful Christmas season when everything changed between my family and me. What began as one of the most painful experiences of my life ultimately led to one of the most transformative. The journey toward healing began slowly. January and February were filled with cautious conversations, tentative boundaries being established, and occasional backsliding into old patterns. There were difficult moments when I wondered if real change was possible, like when my mother accidentally used my old Amazon login, or when Kevin called late one night asking for a small loan that he promised would be different this time. But each of these incidents became opportunities to reinforce the new framework for our relationships. I started seeing a therapist who specialized in family dynamics. She helped me understand that my role as the family provider hadn't developed overnight, but had been carefully cultivated over years with my compliance and participation. "You're not just changing their expectations," she explained during one particularly insightful session. "You're changing your own self-image, and that's often the harder part." She was right. I had defined myself as the responsible one, the successful one, the one who could always be counted on to solve problems and provide resources. Stepping away from that role felt at times like losing part of my identity. Who was I, if not the family fixer? The answer emerged gradually as I reclaimed time and energy that had previously been devoted to managing my family's needs. I rediscovered old interests and developed new ones. I joined a hiking club and spent weekends exploring trails instead of responding to family emergencies. I took a cooking class focused on international cuisines, learning to prepare dishes for pure enjoyment rather than to impress others. I even started dating again, something I had put on the back burner for years, because family obligations always seemed to take precedence. Meanwhile, my family was undergoing their own transformation. Kevin completed a 12-week program for gambling addiction and secured a steady job in sales. The work suited his personable nature, and for the first time he was earning his own way without relying on parental subsidies or loans from me. He and Melissa were still together, their relationship strengthened rather than weakened by the holiday fiasco and its aftermath. Lauren discovered a talent for teaching art and began offering classes at a community center. The regular income boosted her confidence and reduced her financial dependence on our parents. We had our sister's trip in April, a weekend at a lakeside cabin where we talked more honestly than we ever had before. "I always thought you had it all figured out," she confessed one evening as we sat by the fire. "It never occurred to me that you might be struggling too, just in different ways." My parents made perhaps the most surprising adjustments. They downsized to a smaller home, acknowledging that they had been living beyond their means for years. My father took a part-time consulting job to supplement his retirement income, and my mother started a small online business selling handcrafted items. They learned to live within their budget and, more importantly, to communicate openly about financial matters rather than manipulating their children to fill the gaps. I maintained my boundaries consistently, but not punitively. When I visited my parents' new home for the first time, I brought a thoughtful housewarming gift rather than offering to furnish entire rooms as I might have done in the past. When Kevin celebrated 6 months of gambling sobriety, I attended the ceremony and expressed my pride without offering financial rewards. When Lauren needed advice about retirement planning, I connected her with my financial advisor instead of simply handling it for her. These changes didn't happen seamlessly or without setbacks. There were tense conversations, hurt feelings, and moments of frustration on all sides. Old habits and expectations occasionally resurfaced, requiring gentle but firm redirection. But with each interaction, we built a healthier dynamic, one based on mutual respect rather than financial dependence. Last week, my mother called with an invitation that symbolized how far we had come. "We're planning a family 4th of July barbecue," she said. "Nothing fancy, just burgers and homemade sides. Everyone is contributing something. Would you like to come? And if so, could you bring your famous potato salad? Only if it's not too much trouble." The invitation was casual, the expectation reasonable, the acknowledgement of my choice clear. I agreed happily, appreciating the normalcy of being asked to bring a single dish to a family gathering, rather than being expected to host and fund the entire event. As I reflect on everything that has transpired since that painful phone call last December, I recognize that what seemed like a cruel exclusion was actually the catalyst for necessary change. Had my family not pushed me to my breaking point, we might have continued indefinitely in our dysfunctional patterns, with resentment building beneath a surface of forced harmony. The lessons I've learned have extended beyond my family relationships. I've become more discerning about all my connections, recognizing when I'm giving out of genuine generosity versus obligation or fear. I've learned to articulate my boundaries clearly and to enforce them consistently. I've discovered that saying no doesn't make me selfish, but allows me to say yes to the things that truly matter. Most importantly, I've realized that true love, whether familial, romantic, or friendly, must include respect. Respect for each person's autonomy, limitations, and inherent worth beyond what they can provide materially. When we reduce people to what they can give us, we miss the opportunity to know them authentically and to build relationships that nourish rather than deplete. This Christmas will be different. We're planning a truly collaborative family gathering where everyone contributes according to their means and abilities. I've offered to host not out of obligation, but because I want to, and with the clear understanding that hosting doesn't mean covering all expenses. We've established a reasonable budget that everyone has agreed to share equitably. The journey hasn't been easy, but it has been worthwhile. In standing up for myself, I gave my family the opportunity to grow beyond the roles we had assigned each other. In refusing to be taken for granted, I opened the door to being genuinely appreciated. In setting boundaries, I created the space for authentic connection to flourish. I've learned that sometimes you have to lose something to find yourself. That setting boundaries isn't selfish, but necessary for healthy relationships. That true generosity comes from a place of choice rather than obligation. And that love, when built on a foundation of mutual respect, becomes stronger and more resilient than I ever imagined possible. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with loved ones? How did it change your relationship? Please share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to stand up for themselves, even with family. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, loving yourself is the first step toward authentic connections with others.